Technical foul. Yeah. Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome to another episode of Teed Up. I'm David.
Justin.
As always, we appreciate you tuning in. Hope everyone's doing well. Getting closer and closer to the NBA's return. It's like 8 days. Justin is. Do you know like the exact day? It's
First
away.
first week in July.
First week in July.
First week in July.
And today, the day that we're recording this is the 23rd.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's 8 days away, something like that.
Sometime like that. Yeah.
So we're getting
under 2 weeks.
So we're getting closer and closer to the NBA playoffs at Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. You know, I can't wait. You know, just to see it. Did you hear about like the bubble that they're in and like how sick it is?
Oh yeah, it's totally decked out. They get the new releases on the movies.
They get the new Black Widow before everybody else.
Yep, they get that. They get the video games too. So they'll get like 2K21, Madden 21. They'll get to be playing that with each other. They get all this cool stuff. They get chef-made meals 3 times a day, VIP stuff around the resort there that they're gonna be in. It's gonna be really nice.
I heard they also.
I'm kind of jealous.
Yeah, I'm honestly jealous too. Like I wish I was in the NBA. Like my 8th grade self would be jonesing right now because like when I was in 8th grade, I thought I was still gonna make the NBA, but then, you know, I didn't grow to be.
Happen.
Yeah, it didn't happen. I thought I was, but like I heard like after hours they're gonna have the rides open for the players. Like I heard that too, which is crazy because like you get the ride at an amusement park all to yourself, let alone Disney World.
I don't know about that though, because I don't know if they'll allow that with the virus. That may be something they have to tweak here because of the recent outbreaks.
That's true, and that's what we're gonna get into.
Because nothing's set in stone yet. Like that's just what they're projected to have. Things may change here with how things play out in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, and I mean, especially, they might not even have the return. Like now we're even considering if there's going to be a resumed NBA season because Florida is going through a second wave because they open up in the green phase. So, do you think that, with the NBA's return being in Florida, do you think that, this could affect, the return with the second wave?
No, I don't think it should affect the return. I mean, if they allow stupid things like players going on rides after hours, then yes, that would have like issues. But if you just keep them on the resort where they're quarantined with themselves and their teammates and the other teams, it will work out. Everything will work out. It will be smooth. Everything should work. I mean, the other thing they said they have is golf. Now, there could be some issues there. If they can just try and keep them on the resort, everything will work out nicely for them. And I think they will be able to complete the full 8 regular season games plus the full playoffs. Everything would work out nicely. But, I mean, it depends on if the players listen because, I mean, again, there is no way to really force the players to stay and listen to these rules. But at the same time, it's kind of for the best interest in everybody. So hopefully they'd listen.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope that they listen too and they stay, quarantined in their bubble. And that was kind of like the problem I had with like, just everyone in general. Like I remember you saying, and you brought up a good point, and I tell people this all the time. And I don't want to get off topic, but like if people just stayed in their homes for 2 weeks when this all started and didn't go out, we wouldn't be in the position that we are where there's no sports. Sports would eventually come back if everyone just stayed inside for 2 weeks, but people were too stubborn.
Exactly. I agree with that.
So I hope this doesn't happen with NBA players where they get too stubborn and they say, hey, I'm going to go out and I'm going to, interact with fans at the amusement park and things like that.
Because they are kind of being paid for this and they're going to be playing basketball daily, basically, I do not think there will be any issues. Now, if this was like the regular season where normally they have sometimes 2 to 3 days off in between games and they were bored, that's one thing. But if they're playing a basketball game every other day, they should have their like schedules filled. They won't need to have that much free time, and their free time should be pretty booked if they're able to go play golf, watch movies, play video games, hang out on the resorts, the pools and stuff like that. I don't think there should be really any issues there.
So, yeah, and I would agree with that. As long as the players stay quarantined, they stay healthy. I mean, they're gonna have. You heard about like those rings that they're gonna have that like
Hmm.
detect COVID if you
Yep.
COVID symptoms before you even feel them.
Yeah.
So, hopefully they
During the
keep it.
golf tournament over the weekend, the one player was using something similar to that, and it noticed he was having a little more trouble breathing than normal, so they made him get tested, and it turned out he did have COVID, so it saved him and other players
Wow.
from spreading it. So it does work. It has been proven to work. So I hope they do use it.
Yeah, and like what confuses me is like we have to social distance, but like we have like UFC, for example, which is like you're getting your sweat and all your like bacteria and your
Hmm.
blood like everywhere. And I don't know how you can have that with like, you know, still being like quarantined with social distancing. That's just kind
Yeah,
of
there's
crazy to me.
just a lot with it. I mean, I think for that they kind of more have to quarantine themselves before the fight to make sure they don't have it, and they have to test them and stuff like that to make sure they're clean and everything's good to go before they fight. But I mean, it's tough because truly, like even the doctors that are experts, like who have the best knowledge, they don't truly know because they haven't faced anything like this before. So
Right.
they're doing their best, but like realistically, they don't know. They know more than us, but they don't know like everything. They're not experts on it. I mean, they are experts, but they're not experts on what is happening right now because it's never really happened before. They've never been in a situation like this.
And another thing too is like there's so many questions, but there's very few answers,
Hmm. Yep.
Like we're like it seems like every month like of this we're getting more like symptoms. Like they're coming out and saying, "Hey, this is a symptom now. Hey, this is a symptom now."
Hmm.
Things
Yep.
like that. So there's so many questions that we have, but just such few answers, and it's it's
Exactly.
scary and it's confusing and it's a crazy time. But the
Yep.
best thing that you can do is just limit your interactions with people. If you're not feeling well, stay inside, and hopefully the NBA players listen to that. I think that they will, but
Hmm.
just all these what ifs.
Yep. Exactly.
Definitely. And it just came out that Nikola Jokic tested positive for COVID-19. So
Hmm.
so he's gonna have to. I believe he was in Serbia, correct?
Yes, he was. He was over in Serbia and he was trying to get a flight back, and he had to test them before they get on the flight, and his test came back negative. So I mean positive, so he wasn't able to get on the flight.
Yeah. So now the Nuggets are gonna be without their number one guy.
He'll have to
So,
quarantine himself for 14 days there before he can get on his flight. He should be back just around time in time for the season though. So
right, but that's 2 weeks without practicing, without playing
mhm.
basketball.
Yeah.
So do you think that that's going to have like an impact? Obviously, it will, but like, what's the impact that could have on the Denver Nuggets?
I mean, if he doesn't play, that's a huge loss because he is a good player and he kind of is a big vocal point in their offense. Luckily, what the NBA is doing is they're gonna once everybody gets there, they're gonna kind of test them all, and then they're gonna quarantine the players before the season starts. That way, they can say that they're all definitely negative before it starts. So if Jokic does decide to play, then hopefully he'll be quarantined and everything will be good to go. But not having him would be a huge loss for the Nuggets because, in my opinion, he is undoubtedly their second best top. He's a top two player on that team. So
As opposed to who's number one, Jamal Murray?
Jamal Jamal Murray, in my opinion, is more vocal and more important to that team as a
Okay, I
ball
mean that's
handler.
a
And it's like neck and neck. I mean, it might be a little bit of a hot take so far because Jokic is more the big name player, but I think Murray does more all around for that team. But
okay.
it would certainly be a loss to not have him because Jokic is one of those players that can do everything on the offensive end as a big man. He's one of those unicorns. I mean, he can't play defense well, but I don't know. I was interested to see how Slim Jokic would do.
Yeah, that's not having your starting center, even if let's say Jokic wasn't a top two center in the league, that would still
Hmm.
be a huge loss. But the fact that he's at the caliber that he is, a top three center in the league. Yeah, I called him top two, but I remember when we did our top five centers list, I did. Uh, Cat, in my opinion, is better than Jokic, but that's not the point. The point is like having that loss and having that number one or number two guy, whatever you think that Jokic is on your team, whatever option you think he is, that's going to be such a tough loss for the Nuggets. And I don't see them making it past the first round if they don't have Jokic.
Again, it would depend on matchups. It would depend on how they end up playing in the regular season. But yeah, I don't think they'd win in the first round either, unless they somehow got a very nice matchup like they were playing somebody like maybe they could pull off a win against the Jazz or
Even
a
like
very low team. But
even like the Blazers, for example, like because the Blazers still have, they have Hassan Whiteside.
but Hassan Whiteside isn't too big of a. The nice thing is a lot of the teams in the West don't have that they'd be playing against don't have dominating big men. Like today's game doesn't involve a lot of dominating big men. They're more guys that just get rebounds and put back points and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they're more floor spacers. They're not so much guys that you give the ball. It's not like old school basketball where you feed the big man anymore. You kind of use your guards and wings more
Shoot
with
the
the ball,
ball.
and then
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's more of a different. It's a different offense now. So
Absolutely. But it's just and another thing too is it also not only does Jokic kind of change this whole playoff thing, but it's also players have to decide to play if they want to play or not by tomorrow. So this is going to go up Tuesday, June. What's the day? The 23rd. So June 24th, whatever time you guys are listening to this or watching this, by June 24th, players would make a decision, and there could be some blockbuster thing that happens where an all-star comes out and says, "Hey, I'm not playing." So,
yeah, exactly. You don't know what's going to happen yet. So I'm interested to see who sits out and who plays.
right.
I think majority of them will play, but there may be a few that sit out.
Right. I mean, like obviously, Kyrie Irving's not going to play. Obviously Jokic is going to be out for a little bit because he was tested positive.
Lou Will says he's 50-50 on playing.
Lou Will says he's 50-50, and that's
Avery Bradley, Dwight
Avery
Howard, some of these
Bradley,
other guys.
DeMarcus Cousins on the fence.
Mm-hmm.
All these guys. Like, could you imagine if LeBron said, "You know what, I'm not going to play"? I mean, he's stern on playing, but I'm saying
screw the whole game.
right.
I mean, LeBron's a difference maker. Like Patrick Beverley said, if LeBron's playing, we're playing. Like LeBron's the face of the league right now, so it's kind of like the NFL. Whatever Patrick Mahomes does, that's what the NFL is going to do. It's just how the face of the league works. It's like when you're the big guy in the league, you kind of control what happens.
Right, and that's just it's crazy, because of the impact that LeBron James has on the league. It's great, and that's one of the reasons I think he's the best player in basketball, just because of the impact that he has on not only the Lakers but the NBA in general. The fact that he can influence people so much. So, but getting back to Lou Will, if Lou Will doesn't play, he said he's 50-50. He's on the fence about playing. Mm-hmm. Justin, I'm wondering, if Lou Will doesn't play, how much do you think that'll hurt the Clippers?
I mean, obviously losing a player of Lou Will's talent would hurt. I mean, he's a great player and he's a good spark off the bench, but luckily for the Clippers, they're a very deep team, and in the playoffs you only need to run 9-man rotations max. So I don't think it will hurt them that much. They'll still have a guy like Reggie Jackson coming off the bench. They don't really. Landry Shamit's still in there. Paul George. You got the guys there. They're still a solid team. I don't think it would hurt them as much as people would originally think, because the Clippers are a team that has a lot of depth. They have the depth, and in the playoffs, you don't necessarily need the depth. You tend to rely on your top 8 players normally is how it goes. So I think he's like their 6th best player. I think he's their 6th man. But realistically, that 9th man on the Clippers, they just move everybody on that bench up one spot. And I don't think it's too much of a difference.
I think it'll be a huge difference having Lou Will not there. If you look at his numbers this year, averaging 18.7 points a game, 3 rebounds a game, about 6 assists a game, shooting about 42% from the field, 36 from 3. His on-court percentage is plus 4.1. Mm-hmm. And for those of you that aren't into advanced stats, Justin, I know you're a big advanced stats guy as I am. Yeah. For those of you who don't know what the on-court percentage is, that means since it's plus 4.1, that means every time Lou Will's on the floor, the Clippers are up by 4 points. on average. So I think that he's a huge asset for the Clippers, and I think it would be detrimental if he sat out.
I see he's a good player, and like you brought up good stats, but the Clippers do have the depth, and when you're running that team, Kawhi and Paul George will be playing the majority of the minutes there. Where that those are the two positions. Lou Will is like a shooting guardish. Between you have Landry Shamet as your backup shooting guard, and if you start Paul George at shooting guard, you don't necessarily need him there. Like it's a loss, obviously, but the Clippers are the one team that kind of have the depth that it wouldn't be a huge loss. You know what I mean? Because they have, if you think about it, you get Patrick Beverley, your point guard. You have Paul George, Landry Shamet. Then you have Kawhi. You got the Morris brother. Different guys in there. Jermichael Green, I believe, is still there. Who else do they got? They signed some guys here at the deadline. So I mean, they got the depth that it's not like a huge loss. I mean, obviously it's a loss when you lose a guy that's putting up numbers like you just said. But I mean, if there's a team that can take it, it's the Clippers.
Yeah, but I kind of disagree. I think Lou Will is like one of the stars on that team. He's one of the reasons that the Clippers are good. And I think if you take him off of that roster, I think that would obviously the Clippers would still do well in the playoffs, but I just don't think they would do as well. He kind of puts them a little bit over the edge for the Clippers. So having Lou Will not there would be absolutely devastating for the Clippers, in my opinion.
I mean, think about it. In the playoffs, they're going to be running about an 8-man rotation. So that's Kawhi, Paul George, Morris, Harrell, Beverly, Reggie Jackson, Landry Shamet. That's 7 right there. Zubac's your next center. That's 8. That's 8 guys. That's all you really need necessarily. You still get a guy like Jermichael Green if you need a 9th guy.
But if you have Lou Will coming off the bench,
obviously it hurts them because Lou Will is a better player than the guys I listed. But if there's a team that can take that depth, their 8th and 9th guys are better than any other team in the playoffs, 8th or 9th guys. So I think if there is a team in the playoffs that can take that hit, it is the Clippers. The Clippers are the one team that could take that hit and still make it into the Western Conference Finals, maybe even the championship. But if they're like if the Rockets were losing a guy like Eric Gordon, that would be a huge loss because their 8th and 9th guys are not nearly as good as them. If the Sixers are losing, if whoever's losing their 6th man, it's a huge loss. And if you have a guy like a Landry Shamet stepping up as your 6th man, a Marcus Morris, something like that, if you have those guys coming off your bench, that's much better than what the other teams are bringing off their bench. So it's obviously a loss, but it's not as big as a loss as other teams would make it out.
But the whole thing with my point is Lou Will is the X factor on that bench. He's the reason why people have. I think he goes he's kind of in the shadows. Obviously, he's not in the spotlight like Kawhi or Paul George, but he comes off the bench. He should be starting, but he chooses to be a 6th man. And I think he really pushes the Clippers. I just dropped my pen, but I think he just pushes the Clippers over to like be as good as they are.
No, I mean he's a good player, but if there is a team in the league that can take this hit, it's the Clippers, and they're the only team. I mean, look at the Lakers. If they were losing a guy like a Danny Green, that would be or an Avery Bradley, that'd be a huge hit to their team because their bench players are not nearly as good. But the Clippers are that one team that have the depth to be able to take the hit and still make it a decent run. They'd still win a couple games at least. Obviously, it's going to hurt him because he's a very good player and he's one of the best 6 men in the basketball. He's probably the best 6 man in basketball right now if you're looking at it. I mean, it's tough, but it depends what lineup they're running because they do have a couple different lineups in there. But because Harrell's been a 6 man at times too. But if there's a team that can take this hit, it's the LA Clippers, 100%.
So do you still have them winning the West even if Lou Will doesn't play?
I would say so. I think so because even without Lou Will, that depth is still – those 8 players are still better than the Lakers' 8 players.
But you still have to think about it.
Yeah, you have to think about it, but you also have to remember the Lakers are losing Avery Bradley and Dwight Howard too.
Yeah, but they still have JaVale McGee.
Okay, and I just listed the players the Clippers still have. Clippers still have Reggie Jackson and Landry Shamet.
Yeah, but if we're talking about like matchups, I would take like you mentioned Zubac. I would take JaVale McGee over Zubac all day. All day, I'm taking JaVale McGee.
JaVale McGee's a solid player, but I mean, I wouldn't say you're acting like that's an all-star compared to Scrub. It's
No,
not
I
that
know, but
it's not that far off. I would take McGee too, but I mean, it's not like that's a huge deal. I mean, I would take Montrezl Harrell over McGee any day of the week.
I mean, the Clippers. I mean, excuse me, the Lakers still have some pretty decent depth. They got Rondo, they got Quinn Cook, they got all those guys on the coming off the bench. So moving them up wouldn't hurt them too. Even with Avery Bradley and Dwight Howard sitting out, obviously that's a loss for the Lakers. But I still have
All
them
the
as my
guys I
pick for the.
listed are 100 times better than a washed-up Rajon Rondo or Quinn Cook. All the guys I listed are 10 times better than the guys you just listed.
No, I'm not saying that Rondo isn't washed up. I mean, but he's still a decent backup point guard.
Average at best at this point in his career. The Lakers have been terrible when he's out in the court this year.
We want to know. We want to know your thoughts. We already went over on a previous episode. We already went over. Who wins the West and who wins the East. So check out that episode if you haven't. Let us know your thoughts on Lou Will. Let us know your thoughts on the whole Dwight Howard situation, the whole Lakers situation, Clippers. Players sitting out, this whole COVID thing, and this is there's a lot of what ifs, and there's, like I said, there's still a lot of things that we do not have answers to. So the next thing that we wanted to go through, Justin, you actually brought this up. You're a little bit more passionate about this next topic than I am.
Definitely.
It's the most overrated player in the NBA. That's what we're going to talk about. Obviously, Justin, I should just let you go because you're about to go off.
Yes,
it's not. This isn't really like a debate topic. This is more so just like who, in our opinion, who we think is overrated.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering who's your most overrated player?
My overrated player he's a good player. Don't get me wrong. Now, he is a good player and he's very valuable to his team, but he is very overrated. I mean, he's a 5-time All-Star, 2-time All-NBA player. KLAY Thompson is very overrated in today's game. He's a good player. I mean, you see the numbers he puts up. He can put up the numbers. He's seen the 60-point games he's had, but he is just so overrated when it comes to everything he does. He's a good 3-point shooter, but he can't create his own shot. He needs to be set up by Curry or somebody else. He doesn't dribble around. I mean, we saw he doesn't take any dribbles. And his defense is one of the most overrated in NBA history. I mean, when you look at his numbers, there is not one defensive number that says he's a good defensive player. Not one defensive statistics that says he's a good player. You just got to look at it. Look, so for the NBA Finals plus minus since 2015, Andre Iguodala plus 164, Draymond Green plus 145, Steph Curry plus 124, Kevin Durant plus 119, KLAY Thompson plus 60. All those guys are basically double him in plus minus in the NBA Finals. That's how non-important he is. Let's look at let's just go through all his stats now, right? So we say he's kind of a guy that's a good shooter, but he doesn't really, for a volume shooter, he doesn't get to the line at all. Despite shooting 85% from there in his career, he just doesn't get to the free throw line. Look at this. He is currently in the NBA. He is the 9th player ranking in field goal attempts divided by free throw attempts. And he averages 16 field goal attempts per game, while he only gets 2.3 free throw attempts. James Harden's 1, Luka's 2, DeMar DeRozan's 3, Devin Booker's 4, Donovan Mitchell's 5, Victor Oladipo is 6, Bradley Beal's 7, CJ McCollum's 8, and then you have KLAY Thompson all the way down at 9. If you're ranking all your small forward or shooting guards right now, you would have KLAY Thompson probably up there in your top 5, but he's actually 9th in that category right there, right? So let's go to passing categories. You know where he is on passing? He's also 9th. James Harden, 6.2 assists, and Luka at 6 assists lead. KLAY Thompson's all the way down at 2.3 assists per game. He doesn't get any assists. He doesn't pass. When he gets the ball, he's looking to shoot, and he's looking to get a catch and shoot opportunity. He doesn't do anything else on the offensive end. And like we said earlier, he doesn't get a lot of what do you call it? Contact, I guess is the word. He doesn't really drive into the lane and get contact for the free throws. He doesn't do it on the defensive end either. You know how many rebounds he gets? For a guy that's 6'7", he gets 3.5 rebounds per game. Luka Doncic is the same size as him at 6'7", and he gets 7.8 rebounds per game. James Harden, 6'5", gets 5.2 rebounds per game. DeMar DeRozan also 6'7", gets 4.5 rebounds per game. Donovan Mitchell's 6'3", 4 inches smaller, and he gets 0.4 more rebounds per game higher than him. He just doesn't rebound the ball well for a guy his size. He avoids contact. And now, one of the biggest things I saw was how KLAY Thompson is a very good player, but he's a system player. He's very good in that system, but if he wasn't in that system, he's not a guy that can lead the team on his own, and here's exactly why. When him and Steph Curry are both out on the court, they had 4,790 possessions. The offensive rating, the ORTG was 119. Defensive rating was 110.5. The net was plus 8.6. When just Curry's out in the court, it's 120 offensive, 112 defensive, plus 7.9. It's a little less than when they're both out there, but it's solid. Now, when they're both off the court, their offensive rating is 110, defensive rating is 108, and that's a plus 1.9 total net. Now, when it's just KLAY Thompson out on the court, their offensive rating is 109, which is the lowest out of everything I've listed. The defensive rating is 112, which is a little higher than when they're both off, but it's the second lowest I listed. And then the total net of that, minus 2.9 net rating. So that means when he's out, not on the court by himself without Curry, and he's just not that valuable to that team. I mean, they played better without him on the court. Essentially, they were plus 1.9 rather than minus 2.9. So when he's not out on the court, they actually played better, essentially, is what those statistics show. So, I mean, KLAY Thompson is a good player, and he fits that system perfectly, but he's not a guy that can go lead a team to the playoffs on his own. He's not a guy that you can count on to go down the stretch and score baskets for you. He relies on Steph Curry to do all that work, and he just benefits from teams collapsing and double teaming Steph on the perimeter, and he gets left open, and Steve Kerr is a genius when it comes to coaching. He runs plays that you don't even think of that set KLAY Thompson up for perfect catch and shoot opportunities. Outside of catch and shoot opportunities, KLAY Thompson is not very good, and he's not very valuable to that Warriors team if he's not hitting shots, because he is a overrated defender but very good three-point shooter. But his three-point shot isn't like a Curry where he can create his own. It's one of those where you have to set it up for him and then he will hit it. So I think a lot of his points on the three-point, when it comes to scoring and with the three-point shot, it is because of Steve Kerr and Steph Curry. I think he relies on the two of them. But I mean, I just think he's overrated. He's a good player, don't get me wrong. What he does, he's very good at, but he needs other people to set everything up for him. People act like he is one of the best shooters of all time. But like when you go through the list of the other guys, I think they're better all-around players than he was. Now you could make an argument that okay, KLAY Thompson's guarding the better defenders, which is understandable because Steph Curry is an even worse defender than him, so Curry doesn't really defend a lot. But I mean, they kind of switch KLAY Thompson onto the better guy, and then Curry kind of drops off. But even then, his numbers are so low, it just doesn't make sense. He's just not very good. When you go into the statistics, he's not good, at least.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like, I would agree with you, as far as, saying, let's say KLAY Thompson didn't sign with the Warriors in last offseason or last free agency. Let's say he went to a whole nother team. I don't think that he could be a number one guy. To me, he's like a Robin.
No way.
I would compare him to, obviously they have way different playing styles, but I would compare him to Scottie Pippen. I don't think Scottie Pippen would have been as good without Jordan. Scottie Pippen needed Jordan to be good. I feel like that's the same way with KLAY Thompson. KLAY Thompson needs Steph Curry to be good. KLAY Thompson is like, your system quarterback. You know what I'm saying? Like,
exactly. He is. He relies on that system, and he relies on Steph Curry to get him open looks, and that's where he thrives. And I don't know why people are like, oh, he's such a great defender. He's an amazing 3-and-D player. He is not that great of a defender. He really isn't. He's a good on-ball defender on the perimeter, but when he's guarding small forwards and shooting guards, and sometimes even bigger guys when they go into the small ball lineup that they have, KLAY Thompson can't guard down low in the post. He's not a big enough guy to do that. And he's not a quick enough guy to guard guys when they get by him. He can keep them in front of him, but as soon as somebody gets by him, they have a free lane to the rim every time.
But I'm not going to, hold that against him. I mean, he's an amazing scorer.
No, he
Yeah,
is. He's a good shooter. Definitely. He's one of the
yeah,
best
and
shooters of all time. But
yeah, I
he's
was
just
just gonna say
overrated.
in my opinion, he's one of the greatest shooters of all time. Like, I mean, 37 points in one quarter, that's fantastic. You know, he's had a bunch of 60-point games, you know, things like that. So to call him overrated, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, you definitely made an argument for it. And I'm not gonna disagree, but I'm not gonna agree if that makes sense.
No, I mean, I think he is a good player, but I think the way he gets hyped up to be some superstar, and that's just not. He just gets by the media and the fans. They think he's some like superstar that could carry a team on his own. There is no way he could do that.
Right.
He's
And
a
that's like
good supporting player. I'd say on a normal team, he's an average number two player. He's not anything special, but on the Warriors, because of that system that they have, he's an above average number two for them.
it's also like for example, Draymond Green. Like Draymond Green wouldn't be as good if he didn't have Steph and Clay
Mhm.
around him. If he didn't have Steph,
Exactly.
Clay, and KD around him, and you see that he's averaging a triple single, as Charles
No,
Barkley would say.
yeah, exactly. And I think this may get a lot of hate too, but I think it's Steph Curry. It's kind of in the same way. Steph Curry relies on that system to be getting a lot of threes, and he also relies on guys like KLAY Thompson to spread the floor out so Curry can kind of do his thing. I think they all kind of feed off each other there.
But that's why that
It's just a
team
good
works
system.
so well.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. But as a player, he just gets so overrated, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
At least Clay does.
So I think pretty much what you're saying here is Steve Kerr's a genius as far as a coach.
No, I think he is. I think he's a very good coach. Definitely a mastermind when it comes to basketball in general. I mean, he's very good. And just that playing style, like any when you have a guy that can bring up the ball, then has the vision that Curry has and the 3-point shooting, that just opens the floor up for so many different options. And when you have a guy that can spread out the wingers like a KLAY Thompson and a Draymond Green can even step out, and when you had KD, there were just so many different options they had there. So that really helped.
I
And
remember like for example, like a lot of times they would have like Draymond Green bring up the ball so that Curry and Clay could find a way to get open.
exactly, because you couldn't be double teaming either of them then, because both of them are fantastic moving off the ball.
So yeah, I mean that team is a dynasty. A lot of people don't like the Warriors, but you're gonna look
You have
back
to
and you're gonna
respect
say
it.
you got to respect. Yeah, you got to respect the
You
system. You
respect
got to respect
greatness.
Steve Kerr being a great coach. I
Hmm.
mean, for a while, I thought that Steve Kerr was an overrated coach because he has Steph around him, he has Clay, he had KD, he has Draymond around him. But if you watch his system and you watch some film and you watch the plays that he does, you can clearly
Exactly.
see that the plays that he draws up when in crunch time and just in the whole game in general are genius.
No, definitely.
And he got 3 rings out of it.
Hmm. He did. I mean, yes, they had a very good team, but a lot goes into building that team. And I mean, we saw it with the Michael Jordan documentary. You need more than just talented players. There has to be a system in place, a guy that can hold players accountable. And we started to see it at the end there with Golden State, the players kind of starting to fight with KD and Draymond. There's just different things that go on in the locker room. There's different aspects to being a coach. Like, yes, you have to be good enough to draw plays and do that stuff, but there's also the off court aspect. And I think Steve Kerr handles that really well as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, chemistry is key, and that's one of the reasons why the Warriors were so good is that they all got along, except for Draymond and KD, in last year. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you know, for example, like you could have that's the thing when people like have all these like dynamic duos and these super teams, and you tell me, oh, this team would work well, these 3 all-stars, you don't know that for sure.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
That's why everyone thought that Russ, Paul George, and Melo were going to be insane. They weren't because they just didn't play well with each other. Paul George needs the ball in his hands. So does Russell
Yep.
Westbrook. So
Exactly.
that team just didn't work. So you got to have a good system. You have to have chemistry, and you have to have all that circled around you got to commit that on the court. So
Agreed.
yeah, definitely. So my pick for most overrated player, people aren't going to like this because I know he has a lot of fans. Hasn't been playing for a while, obviously. Played 19 games. I'm going to go Zion Williamson. I seriously think
Interesting.
Zion Williamson is overrated. I don't get the hype. He played 19 games, and his stats are, they're not like tremendous. I mean, first of
They're
all,
solid, but they're not great.
they're solid, but they're not like tremendous. And people want to call him like the second coming. People want to say like, oh, he's this generation's LeBron. Get out of here. That's ridiculous. You've only seen
He
the
has the
man play
potential to
19.
be.
No. You've only seen the man play 19 games. How can you say anything like that? You can't make predictions like that. You know, people are going to call him like the best player of the 2020s. I disagree. I think it's going to be Luka Doncic or even Giannis because he's still relatively young.
Yeah, it's tough. That's a tough thing to call. It's too early still, but I mean,
It's way too early to tell what
I
Zion's
agree
going to
with
be.
you. Zion is overrated in that aspect, but he is a good player. Like people are saying he should win Rookie of the Year. No, he should
No,
not.
he's a great player,
I
but like
mean,
he's not better than John Morant.
no, he's a good player, but I mean, if he played a full season, then you could start saying that stuff. But
Right.
people are saying next year he's already going to be the best player in the league, and like that's just not true. Like the hype is way too high.
Insane.
He's gonna be a good player. Like in my opinion, this probably isn't very popular, but I see him as a Blake Griffin or a better version of Blake Griffin or Julius Randle. I don't see him as a superstar, but I see him as a very good player.
I got it. Well, to make an opinion, you can't really even make an opinion yet because he played 19 games.
You can tell. You can see things in this game that like see, in my opinion, he just won't work. I don't think his body can hold up. I think he's going to deal with a lot of injuries.
He's got to get in shape.
He weighs too much. His frame is not good there. I don't like that situation he has.
So me personally, I don't see the hype yet. I mean, obviously in college, he was like the best player in college when he played in college. But as far as NBA wise, I don't get the hype. He played 19 games.
That's fair.
And his stats are
I
like
agree with you.
I think 20 points, 7 rebounds, 3, 4 assists, something like that.
It's solid. It's good, but it's not like
it's good. And he's
amazing.
he's a good player. I think he fits well for that young Pelicans team. But like
I agree.
I think if Brandon Ingram stays on the track that he's been going on, I think he'll be better than Zion.
I don't know.
I think Jason Tatum will be better than Zion.
Too early to tell. I can't. I really can't make an opinion on any of that stuff because it's just too early.
You can make an opinion
like you said, Zion's only played 19 games. I can make an opinion on how it will come, but like I'm not going to compare him to other players that are playing right now. Like,
I mean, you can make an opinion for Jason Tatum. He's in his third year.
I haven't seen enough of Tatum either to know what he's going to be.
I don't know. I just think the hype is way too much. I mean, I definitely saw it when he was going into college, but then he got injured. And then, I saw his first game, struggled for the first 3 quarters, came back in the fourth, played really well. I think he hit like 6 threes. He was doing pretty well.
Yeah.
But
he's a solid player, but I agree with you on that, actually. He's overrated.
He's overrated. He wasn't overrated in college, but in the NBA right now – and look, I want him to prove me wrong.
I think he was overrated in college.
You think he was overrated in college?
Certainly. I mean, people were saying he's the best college basketball player to ever play, and he certainly wasn't.
That's just not true.
Yeah, but people were saying that. So, in my opinion, if you're saying that about a guy, he's overrated. Because he certainly was not.
Who do you think is the best college player of all time?
Like, the best basketball player to go to college, or wow, he was
good. Like he was good in college, but I mean, like for his time in college, he was tremendous.
That's tough because there have been a lot of good players. Wow.
Because my pick's kind of easy.
Probably Kareem, right? That's who you're going with?
I would either go with Kareem or Christian Laettner.
Yeah, one of those two. Those are good picks.
I mean, Christian Laettner was insane, and
I want to say Kareem. I think Kareem was better, but I mean, it's tough because there have been a lot of good college basketball players, but I mean, especially some that have been really good in college and just never panned out. But I mean, Kareem is certainly the best, in my opinion.
I mean,
I'd have to go with Kareem.
Technically, like Jimmer Fredette is one of the greatest college players of all time. Like, he was a tremendous shooter. JJ Redick as well.
Terrible NBA player, but I mean, great college player.
I wouldn't say maybe terrible, but
Terrible for what he was hyped up to be.
yeah, but like he was a good like backup point guard, come off the bench,
Yeah,
shoot the ball.
sure. Yeah.
But I don't know. But let us know what you think about who you think is the most overrated player in the NBA. Let us know. DM us. Comment on YouTube. Let us know. Follow us on Twitter. Tweet at us. Tag us in Instagram. We'll put the link in the description for all our social media. Let us know. Are our opinions terrible? Are our opinions amazing? Are we smart? Are we geniuses? Let us know. Let us know. So next idea we're going to get into is start, bench, cut. Do this every episode. We pick 3 players, 3 relatively young players, and decide, who we start, who we bench, who we cut. And these 3 for this episode is Tobias Harris of the Philadelphia 76ers, Jaylen Brown of the Boston Celtics, and Aaron Gordon of the Orlando Magic. So, Justin, I'm wondering, out of those 3, who are you starting, who are you benching, who are you going to cut?
Honestly, at first when I looked at this, I was like, wow, this is a good one. But then the more I looked at it, I was like, wow, this is actually really easy. In my opinion, well, first off, I'm cutting Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon has had a very disappointing year.
Agree.
He was hyped up to be a lot more than what he's produced this season. I mean, Orlando's kind of been a dud this year, but I mean, he can give you rebounds, he can give you assists and points, but he just isn't performing up to what his expectations were.
Should have won the dunk contest, though.
Yes, he should have. So he's good, but I mean, I have to cut him in this situation. And then this one hurts me because it's the Sixers, but I have to bench Tobias and start Jaylen Brown. I mean, what Jaylen Brown can do on the defensive and offensive end is kind of the reason here. I mean, he's putting up an extra point. I mean, the rest of the stats are pretty similar, but I think Jaylen Brown's a better defender, at least from watching the games. Tobias is not a great defender. He's average at best when it comes to defending out in the wing. So I'd have to give the edge to Jaylen Brown, but I think it's close, but I'd give the edge to Jaylen Brown there. I'd start Jaylen Brown, bench Tobias Harris, and cut Aaron Gordon.
Yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely on page with you with Aaron Gordon. I think he's been such a disappointment this year. I should have won the dunk contest, but that's it.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
if we go back to on-court percentage, it was -2.
Mm-hmm.
You're the second option on your team, and your team actually goes down when you're on the court.
Yeah, but I'm not sure.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not sure how much that has to do with him or how bad his team is. Because outside of him,
he's got a solid team around him. I mean, he's got Vucevic.
No. Outside of Vucevic, he doesn't really have anything around him. I mean, you were seeing good things out of guys like Jonathan Isaac or Isaac, however you pronounce his name. But then Evan Fournier is terrible at this point in his career. He was solid, but he's nothing more than a bench shooter off the bench.
Don't Google his last name, by the way.
Yeah.
Nightmares. For my list, yeah, but I just think Aaron Gordon's been such a disappointment. Even if you look at his stats, he's averaging like 14, 4, and 6 or something like that, I believe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's a disappointment, especially if you're the second option. You shouldn't be averaging what he's
considering last year he was averaging like 17 points. His stats have dropped off.
I agree. Absolutely. Did you hear that Dwayne Wade diss he had?
Mm-hmm.
It's actually pretty good. I'm not gonna lie.
It was. I liked it.
I'm not gonna lie. Like I at first I was like, this is gonna be garbage, but then it's pretty fire.
It was okay. Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Pretty fire. But I'm cutting Aaron Gordon just like you are. I'm actually gonna start Tobias Harris. I just think he's a little bit better on offense. I mean, their stats on offense are pretty much identical. Tobias is averaging 19.4 points a game, 6.8 rebounds a game, 3.2 assists per game, shooting 47% from the field, 36 from 3. Jaylen's averaging 26 and 2, shooting 49% and 38%. So, I mean, their stats are identical, and they could go either way. But I think, just for Tobias, I feel like Tobias gets less shots because of Simmons and Embiid. So I don't think you can see
disagree. I think Jaylen Brown gets less shots because Jaylen Brown's out there with Kemba Walker, Jason Tatum, Gordon Hayward. I think that offense is, I'd say.
But I think he gets.
I'd say he may be that fourth. I'd say he may be the fourth option on that team. He's definitely third option, maybe even fourth. Because I think Gordon Hayward can compete with him in touches there for third option. Meanwhile, Tobias Harris is the clear-cut third option.
Right, but like I said, it could go either way.
No, I don't. I agree. I think it's close here, but Jaylen Brown is certainly the better defender, and
Absolutely.
I think Jaylen Brown takes that because he is a better defender.
Yeah.
That's literally why I'm doing that. I think their offensive numbers are pretty similar, but Jaylen Brown is a better defender, so I have to give it to Jaylen Brown.
But I do think that he does get shots taken away from him because it is Simmons and Embiid taking most of the shots.
Simmons doesn't take a
And
lot
even
of
Jay
shots,
Rich.
though.
Yeah, but he drives in the
Simmons
paint a lot.
doesn't take a lot. Yeah, and he won't go up with the ball. He passes it out. Simmons doesn't take a lot of shots for a second. Compared to a guy like Kemba Walker, Ben Simmons takes no shots per game.
I don't know. Let us know what you think in the comment section below. We want to know what you think. Seriously, let us know what you think. Let us know what you think. Have I said let us know what you think yet?
No, you haven't.
Okay, let us know what you think.
One more time.
Let us know what you think. Yeah, but seriously, DM us on Instagram, comment on Instagram. Let us know what you think. Last topic we wanted to get into. We do have to give credit to the Opinionated 7-Footers podcast featuring Ryan Hollins and Brendan Haywood. This was their segment, but Justin and I thought that it was such a good segment, and it was honestly a debate that a lot of people don't really talk about. A lot of people really don't bring this up, but because the power forward spot is such a weak position in NBA history. I mean, if you tell somebody, name the greatest shooting guards of all time, immediately they'll tell you Jordan, Kobe, Dwayne Wade, Vince Carter, Allen Iverson. Power forwards, you got to think about it. Tim Duncan, who is, in my opinion, there's no really real question, he's the greatest power forward of all time.
Agreed.
Then people, take a little bit and they think Dirk, KG. Aside from that, Karl Malone.
Karl Malone's up there.
So, but what we wanted to focus on is Dirk and KG and who's better out of those two. So, Justin, I think you believe that KG is better?
100%. Definitely better.
I'm going to have to disagree with you, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I think Dirk, honestly, in the power forward spot rankings all time, Tim Duncan goes first, Dirk goes second, and KG goes third. And I'll tell you why. One of the things is, Dirk is just a way better on offense. He's a better shooter and a better scorer than KG is. Absolutely. Has a higher PER than Dirk, and if you look at his accolades, Dirk has a Finals MVP, KG doesn't. Dirk has way more All NBA team selections. Dirk
Finals
won
MVP doesn't really mean anything. Like that's
it means he was the best player of that Finals.
Yeah, but you know how Andre Iguodala won a Finals MVP. He was certainly not the best player in that Finals.
I don't know. On Golden State?
He was not the best player in the Finals that year.
The best player in the Finals that year was LeBron.
That's what I'm saying. Finals MVP doesn't mean you're the best player. It means you were the best player on the winning team. And Andre Iguodala that year wasn't even the best player on his team. I would have given it to Steph Curry or someone else before I gave it to Andre
Steph Curry
Iguodala.
did horrible that Finals. He does horrible in the Finals all the time.
Yeah, but Andre Iguodala didn't do that good. The only reason he got it was for locking down LeBron James at times.
But you act like you're undermining him for locking down.
I'm not,
LeBron
but I'm saying
James.
Finals MVP can be a very fluky award. It's not necessarily something that is a guaranteed lock that makes you better than somebody else.
But I mean, what about the fact
when you're comparing Andre Iguodala to somebody else that hasn't won a Finals MVP, you're just going to say Andre Iguodala is better because he won Finals MVP? I don't think so.
No, I didn't say that. I'm saying that because of
I
Dirk's.
agree. He got it, but I mean, I just don't think that's necessarily a great achievement. Yeah, it's like winning Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, but even then, like Dirk won on his own. I mean, with a washed up Jason Kidd, with Tyson Chandler, who was, I guess, good that year, but he wasn't, amazing. I mean, he made the Olympic team, but he wasn't like, amazing.
He was solid.
He won against that Miami dynasty on his own, pretty much.
That Miami dynasty team was before they were good.
It was 2011. That was when they were at their start.
Yeah, that's when they struggled. That's when LeBron had his one choke of his career.
Yeah, but Dirk, even then, like, I mean, if you remember that Finals, Dirk had the flu, and he still went out there and played. And also, one thing, and this, honestly, I think, take all the stats, take all the accolades out. Who has a signature fadeaway and who doesn't?
That means Dirk. Absolutely.
That
means
signature
nothing.
move. He changed that. He changed that. He has that signature fadeaway.
All right.
He
Well,
had such an impact on the
no,
game. Dirk had such an impact on the game with just that fadeaway. KG really didn't have an impact like Dirk had on the game. And
no.
that's no knock to KG.
That
JK
means
KG is a
nothing.
legendary player.
The fact that he has a fadeaway means absolutely
But he
nothing.
like
That's
invented that shot. He didn't obviously he didn't invent the fadeaway, but he has like one of the most iconic shots in NBA history. That fadeaway.
okay. Well, I guess that means James Harden is better than everyone else because he invented a new step back.
He didn't invent the
That
step
how it
back.
works? He invented a new double step back.
He invented traveling.
Yeah. Well, I guess that means he's better because he
One, two,
invented
three,
something that
four,
nobody else
shoot.
did. He invented something new. He has a signature move now.
Well,
So I
so
guess
did
that means
Dirk, and
he's
that's why I
better.
got to give him the edge. That's not exactly why I have to give him the edge, but that's
Uh,
but the impact that Dirk had on the game is one of the reasons why I got to give him the edge.
can I go? I'm done listening to this
Yeah,
garbage.
go ahead.
All right.
It's not
So,
garbage, it's facts.
okay, yeah, you're right. They're pretty even season MVPs. They're both able to win both four-time All-NBA teams. They're both good players, but go to the defensive end, the guy that can do it on both sides of the court. Kevin Garnett, 9-time All Defensive First Team. You know how many Dirk Nowitzki has? You know how many Dirk has? Not one. Not even one. Dirk couldn't play defense to save his life.
That doesn't mean he couldn't play defense.
KG won one Defensive Player of the Year award. Dirk Nowitzki, none. You know what else KG could do? He could rebound. Dirk couldn't. Kevin Garnett won 4 Rebound Leader of the Year things. He had the highest rebound total 4 times in his career in 4 different seasons. That's pretty impressive. I mean, go to the defense. KG for his career averaged 10. Dirk only averaged 7. That's 3 rebounds per game through 21 years. That's a lot more rebounds. KG had more steals. KG had more assists. KG had more blocks. KG just outplayed him on both sides of the court. If I'm picking a player, I'm picking a guy that can do it on both ends of the court rather than a player that's one-sided.
But he really never won until he had to team up with Ray Allen and Paul Pierce. Dirk could win on his
Okay,
own.
did you see the team around him at the time? That did nothing to do with KG. That had all to do with the Minnesota Timberwolves' poor management. The Minnesota Timberwolves were one of the worst run front offices of like the history of basketball. I mean, it is just pathetic. What they did then is basically the equivalent of the Sacramento Kings today. Like it had nothing to do with Dirk, more so KG had more so to do with the poor management of that team. It was just terrible. When you look at the two players, I'm taking their offensive stats I'd say they're pretty close, but I'd say I'd give the edge to Dirk. But when it comes to defense, KG's up here and Dirk is way down here. There's a big difference on the defensive end of the floor, and when it comes to
but I would say
rebounding
the
and stuff
same
like
thing
that,
about Dirk's offense. Dirk is way up here and KG's way down there.
that's not how the numbers show it. 18 to 20 points per game. It's only 2-point difference. It's not that big of a
But
stretch.
Dirk could do more. He had the jump shot. He was a better
KG could hit a
shooter.
mid-range jump shot.
But Dirk could hit the threes.
Yeah, but so what? That doesn't mean you're a better player because you can hit threes. I guess LeBron James isn't a good player because LeBron James can't shoot threes.
He can now.
Yeah, but so what? That's not a knock on a player because they can't shoot threes. KG could still pull up a 3. It wasn't like he didn't shoot them, but he wasn't a high percentage shooter for him. Just like LeBron hasn't been his whole career.
Yeah, but Dirk had that longevity all his career being an amazing shooter, and he was known for his offense.
So did you realize they played the exact same number of NBA seasons, right?
I know this. I know this. But even if you watch him, even if you just take the stats away, if you watch Dirk, he was just a way better offensive player. He was a way better playmaker and a way better shooter.
A floor spacer. I mean, no, when you look at it, their offensive numbers are similar enough that when you go to the defensive end, the numbers are so different. I mean, it's just so big. It's such a huge difference.
This is just because you liked Uncut Gems, all right? It was a good movie, but just because KG was in it doesn't mean you have to give him the edge over.
No, I don't. I hate it. I mean, I'm picking our rival team's player. I hate to do that, but KG, I will take the guy that can play on both ends of the court over a guy that's only one-sided. Like right now, if I'm
taking not just one-sided. Dirk is a defender. Dirk can defend the ball.
Dirk could defend.
Dirk could not defend.
Dirk could defend.
It might not show up in the stat sheet, but sometimes defense doesn't show up that way.
He could not. Dirk was not a good defender. You can ask anyone. Dirk was one of the worst defenders for a big man. He was slow, not in great shape. I mean, when you watched him, he just wasn't that good of a defender. wasn't a lockdown defender like KG was. KG was a guy you could count on going out there, grabbing 12 rebounds and getting 2 blocks a game and shutting the other guy's big man down. Dirk could not do anything close to that.
If he was so much better, couldn't he lead the Minnesota Timberwolves to at least the finals?
Name one other player on that team, on the
Sam
Timberwolves team.
Cassell.
Not that good compared to the other guys. I mean, look at the Mavericks team. That Mavericks team wasn't some scrub team. It was a solid roster they had.
What was left of Jason Kidd, Tyson
Jason Kidd was so solid
Chandler,
at the time. Corey Brewer, who was good at the time. Caron Butler, JJ Barea. You got Brandon Hayward, Tyson Chandler, Jason Kidd, Ian
the only
Mahinmi,
outstanding
Sean
player on
Marion,
that team.
Steve Novak.
The only outstanding player on that team was Dirk.
They had solid players.
Solid players. That's it. That's stretching it. Solid. Dirk took that team. Dirk took that team on his back and made a finals and won a championship off of it.
That was all they needed at that point. They didn't need any more.
Let us know what you think. We want to know who you think is better. Do you think Dirk Nowitzki's better? Do you think Kevin Garnett is better? It's honestly it's close. It's closer than you think. I mean, we're arguing like there's a clear winner, but it's close. It's closer than you think. It is.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a great episode. Definitely covered a lot of great stuff. Definitely want to thank you guys for joining in. We'll see you guys Friday. Make sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Support the Patreon page. We'll put that in the link below. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. Have a good one. Peace.